One of the greatest things I like about a hammock system is the ability to go into differing terrains and successfully set up camp. Hillsides, slopes, areas that are pretty cluttered and brushy, etc. You just basically have to find two trees to hang some straps between. So let's start with that. Today I picked an area. I've got two, they look like decent sized trees, and of course first thing you want to do is take a look above like we talked about before, and make sure that there aren't any widow makers, any branches that either through wind or no wind might fall on you and cause you harm. So you do that first. Then find two secure trees, okay, that are going to be appropriate to anchor your straps on. They should be about 8 to 10 feet apart. These look about 8 feet apart. They might be a little close. If so, if they are, we can just find maybe another tree to work through. And actually, yeah, I think they'll be fine. Now, I'm using what's called the Atlas strap system. There are a number of ways to anchor a hammock. You can use paracord, you can use different kinds of webbing, but I use the Atlas strap system because I find it's pretty quick. It does weigh a little bit, but you never really have to do too much to adjust it because it comes with loops at different increments on one end. You simply find the tree that you want, wrap your hand around the tree, bring it through the loop, tighten it up, and that's your anchor right there. One thing is that the other thing that I like about the strap too, it's less likely to hurt the tree because it does have some width to it. So let's get these attached. I'm getting an impression right off the bat that I'm too close. Should have been farther away. Okay, well, we'll move. Well, let's try that again. These trees that I picked now are definitely a lot farther apart and should work. The hammock system we're going to look at today is the ENO hammock system. In particular, we're going to look at the single nest, the double nest, the tarp, and if I can find it in my bag, the mosquito net. I put the straps up, as you can see. We tried it on a different set of trees. It's been a while since I've done this. As soon as I got the second strap up, I knew I was too close in terms of the width. But the cool thing about the straps is if it doesn't work, they come off like that and they go back on just as fast. So let's get the, we're going to start with the double nest. It comes in a nice sack, compression sack. We're going to hang that one first and give you an idea what that looks like. Some parts of this I might fast forward, some I might not, just so that you can kind of see the overview of it. But it does go fairly quick. Now, as you can see, the bag's attached to it, so you're never going to lose that. And that's it. Now, so with very little effort, you have yourself a hammock. Okay, obviously we haven't put up a ridge line or anything like that. We can lower it down if we want, if it's too high. But if you'll indulge me for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to give you a little story about this. And I'm going to keep this as live as possible. So I may look like an idiot at a couple times in here, but I'm not going to edit this too much to try to prove a point. And my point is that, I'm going to take some of this stuff out of my pocket, that about 2 years ago I bought this system, and I was real excited about it because it really opened up the possibilities of where to camp. you could slip in anywhere on the weekend, and without too much effort, you could put up your sleep system, and you could be, you know, maybe an hour you could spend making camp, if that. But I was a little heavier then, about 40 pounds heavier. And even though I wasn't breaking any weight limits on the system, I just couldn't sleep in it. Between my back, the problems I had with my back, and probably my weight, it just didn't work. So I didn't throw it away, I didn't sell it. I actually started with a single nest, what they call a single nest, and decided, well, maybe a double nest would be more comfortable for me because I was a pretty big guy. I'm 6'1". At that time I was 278, 275, 280 pounds. A double nest might be a good thing. And it actually wasn't too bad, but it just didn't seem to be there, like there wasn't enough room for me. So 40 pounds less later, now it's springtime, I'm getting the itch to go camping. I thought, well, you know, maybe you ought to try this again. So I'm going to take my boots off and take some of the sharper things out of my pockets, and I'm going to try to get in it, and you're going to watch. So get ready to close your eyes. It might not be pretty, let's put it that way. Yep. I have to say that went better than expected. I didn't take my boots off because, you know, I just wanted to get in it. But I have to adjust it, because if you look at the angle of it, you're really shooting for a little sharper angle this way. In other words, I have to bring the hammock out a couple of notches, which it's going to make it lower, but what it'll do is it'll allow me to lay diagonally on the hammock, okay? Because you don't necessarily want to lay, you know, directly into the hammock. You sort of want to lay kitty corner on it, especially in a double nest when you're going to have that amount of material. I'm going to move you so you can see a little bit better what I mean. All right, here's all this material. Like I said, it's a double, they call it a double nest. There's singles and doubles. You can get either one. And the doubles, you're actually supposed to be able to get 2 people in. But, you know, maybe kids you could do. I don't know, adults, probably not. And even if you could, and you weren't breaking the weight restriction of it, I don't know if you could sleep well. I don't think I could, but. One of the things that I probably would do would bring myself a little, you know, maybe a 3 foot by 4 foot piece of tarp, old tarp that I could use sort of as a floor mat to put my feet on so I wouldn't be getting dirt in and out of the hammock. Because don't forget, you're going to have to put a sleeping bag in this and maybe a pad. So normally what I do is I just open it up a little bit with one hand, and then the other hand I'm grabbing the front edge. Basically sit down on it. It doesn't feel like a regular hammock in that regard. And see, if you lay in it the regular way, the long way, you know, if you're a person that can sleep like this, that's fine. But normally, what I've been told is you actually lay across it more like this, and it keeps your body flatter, high. And then you can just kind of shuck your material underneath. Now my feet are right here, and I've got all this hanging over because, like I said, it's a double. You could almost pull this over the top of you to keep the dew off in the night. But I have to say, it's a lot more comfortable now than it was 2 years ago. And I could seriously take a nap right now. That's how nice it is. Now, the other thing I wonder about is, you know, does it swing a lot in the wind? That would be interesting to know. And I did try to put the screen up at one point with this. And one of the problems I had with it was getting in and out of it. I mean, the screen and the tarp both in it make it pretty confining. The screen worked well. But the other thing that bothered me about it was, you know, underneath, where the screen might be really close to it, the bottom of the hammock, the mosquitoes are like, well, you know, it's only thin wall construction. We can bite right through that. So there are hammocks and screens out there that are treated with pyrethrin. I'm not a real big fan of that stuff, but you know, if it keeps the bugs away, that might be an option as well. All right, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit more because I feel like I could go down on that side and up on this side if this is where my head's going to go. So and that's the other thing you have to look at, is in terms of leveling it. You know, which side is which. Getting in and out of it seems to be a lot easier now than it did before, that's for sure. So I can really see that this is, I might just go down one more here. That takes it a little bit lower. So you definitely want some slack in it. You don't want it, I mean, some people say, you know, you want it absolutely tight, and I'll do that just to show you the difference. But I think if you want to do the diagonal lay across the hammock itself, you have to have some slack in it so it has the ability to spread and accommodate that configuration better. We're about the same now. I don't know what it would be like if you were trying to sleep on your side. If you would have a tendency to roll out of it, or I think you'd have to just get used to sleeping, I don't know, this way. I don't know though. I'm willing to give it a shot. I mean, this is one of the reasons why you try to practice close to home. You know, do an overnight, put it out in the yard. I mean, you can easily do this in the yard if you have a couple of trees that are the right distance apart. And that's the cool thing with the straps or this type of system, is that you can adjust it. All right. So I pretty much demonstrated how quick and easy this goes up. But let's do the mosquito system if I can find it, or the tarp if I can't, or both. So stay with me. Okay, so as luck would have it, I did bring my bug net system. This is the ENO bug net. As memory serves, this fits both the single and the double, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. Right off the bat, well, obviously it's going to have less room with 2 people than it is going to be with 1. So let me get this up and I'll get back with you. So one of the things I've seen already is that you have to thread the hammock through this. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll see if we need a ridge line. Okay, one of the things I've discovered right off the bat is if I run a ridge line, because it has these clips that I would hang on a ridge line, is I would probably, if I wanted my door on a certain side, you have to sort of pay attention to that when you're hooking it up, because now my door is on this side, and it's not really that convenient, but for purposes of demonstration and expediting, I won't go through the process of taking it apart. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, but on each end, there's a little drawstring here that when you get to the end of the hammock, you just snug it up tight, keeps the mosquitoes out of that end, and there's a nice little toggle there. Same on the other side. All right, so now we have it's totally screened in, and now I can run a ridge line and get an idea about how high I want that ridge line in order to hang the net and give me kind of some room here. I mean, I doubt very much that you want to get into this thing with it flopping on your head, and you need a little space above your head. So So there's the net system. Here's the net in a nutshell. I've added a ridge line here, just a piece of paracord between the 2 trees. I think one of the things I would like to add is a pair of small bungee cords. The very, very small miniature ones. You know, I think they're not even it might be a foot long, you know, 1/4 of an inch in diameter, to put between here and maybe the strap, one of the loops in the strap, to keep it from shifting this way. Because once you're in it, I imagine there's going to be, you know, you have to leave a little room on the bottom for that to give. But you don't want it so rigid here that you're going to be, you know, pulling so hard against something gives and rips. I think a bungee cord would be a lot better in that regard. The other thing you could probably do if you in a pinch is to put some sort of toggle in here so that it didn't shift over there. But just some afterthoughts. There is now all this slack in here, so I'm a little afraid of what what'll happen once I get in it, whether or not the stress gets taken up by the straps or too much stress gets put on the ridge line. So I'm going to try to get in this thing and just to see where it's at now. I really like the screen though. It's very fine. It's definitely a no-seam screen. So as I said, I have been in this once before. This was a couple of years ago. This is the very first time I've been in it since. So getting in and out of it, I'm probably not going to be the world's most graceful person. Not bad. Okay, so now the trick would be, how do you zip it up? I think it really would help if you were a gymnast, maybe even a there we go. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. You notice it's a lot lower to the ground now. I mean, it's easy to adjust, but when I turned around, basically because this is where I ended up when I came through the screen, I mean, I could probably go in either direction. It doesn't really make any difference. But the same idea applies. It's a little confining in here. I don't know if the screen would bother me. Maybe I could make some adjustments on the screen. Maybe if I put the ridge line lower, because I don't know that I need it that far up. You know, maybe it could be a little bit lower so that I have a little bit more room this way. It would have been nice if they put a couple of straps to maybe somehow pull the screen away this way a little bit. But you know, if you're hiking all day and you're tired, maybe a lot of that just doesn't make any difference. Anyway, that's what it looks like with the screen up. Now let's see if we can put a tarp on it. Better yet, let's see if we can get out of it. I don't think that was too bad. But I do think I'm going to have to do a little investigating, because if they make a larger bug net so that you have more width of it, it's not too narrow in here, but it's a little narrow in here. Okay, now I'm going to put the tarp on it. The last part of our system, we have the hammock. We talked about the straps, the hammock itself, and the screen, or the bug net. And the last item is going to be the ENO Pro Fly. This is going to be used if you're expecting some rain. You just want a little protection from the wind or dew. So I'm going to erect this. It's been a while. Who knows what's going to happen. I'll fast forward through some of this for you, but let's go ahead and put it up. There you have it. There's the tarp, the ENO tarp, Pro Fly. Staked it out in the four corners. I tied it off on this dead tree, and then over there I tied it off on another tree, staked it out on the back side, and then the two center lines for the peaks just pulls it taut to keep the top nice and tight. Now, for some of you that know the ENO system, you probably recognize the fact that it's upside down. It should be the other way around. And I caught that just about the last time I was putting the finishing touches on this. So you have to pay attention to the shiny side goes out. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about it and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so that's the hammock system. We've got we talked about the straps, the hammock, the bug net, and the Pro Fly. Pretty easy setup, pretty quick. Very low impact to the area, especially when you use the straps on the trees. There's very little impact to the trees that you're working with. Pay attention to, don't forget the widow makers and things above you. Make sure things are very secure. So check out the ENO system and other hammocks that are out there, see what fits you. I think the double still fits me pretty well. I feel comfortable in it. I like the idea of having a little extra material that maybe I could pull over me to keep the dew off, etc. So I think I'm going to stick with that for now. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, what have you, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see the future videos coming out. So until next time, take care, stay safe, be dry. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Sort of an afterthought here. I've been taking things down, and one thing I do remember about this Pro Fly, the fly that goes in it, it seems to be the only bag, the bag that comes with it is the only bag that's not a compression sack. So it's just a stuff sack. The net and the hammock itself have their own compression sacks. And as I recall, there's enough room in there that, you know, it takes a little work, but you have to stuff them. But not with the Pro Fly. The Pro Fly really takes a little work. I don't mind working, but if I'm trying to break camp and it's cold and my hands are cold, you might be better off getting a new bag, because let me tell you, there's not even a gram of room in here once you get done, I'm sure. So this has been sort of the biggest headache for the last 5 minutes and I left some line attached, which probably takes up a little room too, but still, you know, even to get just the tarp, the fly itself in here has been quite the chore. So I don't know, just food for thought.